Hi, this is Miss Holloway, and I am going to redo Unit 1, Day 1 due to the volume not being able to be heard on our last video. Okay, so first we're going to go over the vocabulary for finding square and cube roots. Our first vocabulary word is square root. A square root of a number is a number that, when multiplied by itself, equals the original number. So, for an example, if I take the square root of 9 equals 3, because I know 3 times 3 equals 9. A perfect square is a square of an integer. Okay? Like if I have the 25 equals 5 squared. Okay? So that means that 25, the square root of 25 is perfect. Okay? It's just an integer, it has no decimals. Okay? So to be perfect, it has to have no decimals. Okay. Here's some more of that vocabulary. We have our radical sign. We'll go in the blank that's right here. And the radical sign is just showing you your square root or cube root sign, okay? And then we have our radicand. Our radicand is going to be the number that is under the radical sign. And the radicand can be either positive or negative. On this slide, you do not have the problems written, so you would need to write the problems for A, B, and C. Find the two square roots of the perfect square and justify your answers. There is no radical sign here. When I mean two square roots, I'm looking for the positive and the negative, because I know a positive times a positive equals a positive, but also a negative times a negative equals a positive number. So I'm looking at A at 36, and I want to think in my head, what two numbers, what number can I multiply by itself that will equal 36? So I'm thinking back to my multiplication facts, and I think that 6 times 6 equals 36. So I know it can be positive 6, but also know that negative 6 times negative 6 also equals 36. You can either write it like this, two separate numbers, or you can write it like this, with a positive, negative 6. When I see this positive and negative, and when other teachers see the positive and negative, we will know that you mean both positive and negative of that number. So B, 121. So I'm going to think about my multiplication facts of which number multiplied by itself equals 121, and I know that 11 times 11 equals 121. So I have 11 and negative 11, because negative 11 times negative 11 equals 121. You can also write it like this. Then we have 49, and I know that 7 and negative 7 will equal 49. So I do 7 times 7 equals 49, and negative 7 times negative 7 equals 49. And I can also write it like this. Please stop the video at any time that you need more time to write stuff down. Okay, important to remember. So I have the square root of n represents the positive square root of n. Okay, there's no negative sign at all, so we know it's going to be positive. When I have my negative outside the radicand right here, that's going to represent the negative square root of the number of n. Then when I have my positive negative, so the positive negative square root n represents both square roots of n, both the positive and the negative. So find the square roots of each number. So I know that the square root of 36, because it's positive 36, I'm going to have only one number because I have the radical sign here. It's going to be 6, because 6 times 6 equals 36. Because 6 times 6 equals 36. Okay, on B, we have the negative sign in front of the radical sign. So I know I'm going to put my negative, I'm going to move my negative over here to my answer, and I'm going to take the square root of 36, which was 6. So now the negative square root of 36 is negative 6. Same with C, I have the positive negative square root of 100. I'm going to move it over here into my answer. And I know the square root of 100 is 10 because 10 times 10 is 100. And then D, the square root of 0 is always 0. Okay, using your calculator. This is how you use your calculator for the TI-30. Okay? How to find the square root. You hit the second key in x squared. Okay? Above the x squared button, you'll see a radical sign. Okay? And it puts a parentheses here. So when you hit second x squared, it looks like this. Okay, that's my parentheses, not a C. So you'll put your number here. Like if I was going to put 36, I would close my parentheses there. They have the parentheses there for when we get to order operations. So for right now, you do not have to put the closing parentheses, but you can if you want. Okay, to enter a fraction, you're going to use the ABC. It is 3 keys above the 7. 3 keys above 7. Okay, so you hit 1, ABC, 2. And then for our negative, the negative is below the 3 key. You cannot use the minus key for negative. If you use the minus key as a negative, it's going to make, in the calculator, it's going to use that as subtraction, and you will not get the correct answer. Okay, now we're going to use our calculator to find the square root. Okay, so I'm going to help, and I'm going to write down what you would put in your calculator to find the square root. You can pause at any time to work these out on your own and then listen to find the answers, or you can watch and complete them with me. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the second key. I'm going to hit second, x squared, 0.81, and I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to get my answer to be 0.9. For B, I would do second, x squared, 1, ABC, 9, enter. And we get the fraction 1/3. For C, negative square root 1/100, the first thing you would do is hit the negative key, not the minus key. Negative's one below the 3 key. Second, x squared, 1, ABC, 100. Enter. And you get negative 1/10. And for D, you'll do second, x squared, 12.25, enter, and that equals 3.5. I'm going to write this one different to match my other ones. Slide number 8, inverse operations. Squaring a number and finding a square root undo each other. So they are inverse operations. So it's just like when you're undoing addition with subtraction or multiplication with division. When we take the square root and then we square it, we're undoing the operation. So if you look here at my first one here, 4 square, so we know 4 times 4 is 16, so I have the square root of 16 right here, and that's going to equal 4. Here, if I do my parentheses first, I get square root of 4 is 2, so I'm going to just square my 2, equals 2 squared equals 4. It's the opposite. You're going to undo each other. Hey, cube root. This definition is not written down, so you would need to write this down and pause the video to do it. The cube root of a number n is a number whose cube equals to n. Okay, so just like our square, so if I take the cube root of 8, so I know the cube root of 8 is 2, so the cube root of 8 equals 2. Okay, because I know that 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Okay, because you can do 4 times 2 equals 8 too. Okay. Also, with cube roots, we can deal with negative numbers. Okay, so if I take, I'll draw a little line right here. So if I take the cube root of negative 27, I know that negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 equals negative 27. I know that negative 3 times negative 3 is going to give me positive 9, and then positive 9 times negative 3 equals negative 27. With cube roots, you can have negative numbers. Okay? The perfect cube is a cube. A perfect cube is the cube of an integer. So just like we did on perfect squares, we have our perfect cubes. So the cube root of 8, I'm going to use that example, equals 2. It is perfect. It equals a whole integer. Okay? Because 2 cubed equals 8. Okay. How to use your calculators for cube root. Okay? The first thing that you would need to do is hit the 3 button for your cube. Okay? 3 second house top 8 equals 2. Okay? Above the house top key, you see this. It's a little star in the radical sign. That is showing us that the number that's before the radical sign, which is your 3, will go right there where that star is to make that a cube root. Okay? If I hit second x squared, because it's asking the difference here, if I hit second x squared, I'm going to get a radical sign. Okay? If I hit just second house top, it gives me answer, the little star, radical sign. That means whatever the answer was in your problem that you just worked is going to be in front of your radical sign. So you got to make sure you put the 3 in front when you're finding cube roots. Okay, can I take a cube root of a negative number? Okay, I kind of discussed this a few slides earlier. And yes, you can take a cube root of a negative number because negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 equals negative 27. Because I have 3 negatives, so my 2 positives are going to cross out, and I'm going to be left with 1 negative. So 9 times negative 3 equals negative 27. When your radicand is negative, your answer will be negative with cube root. Okay? So if I'm looking at the cube root of 27, I know that 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. so my answer would be 3. Okay, the first one is -3, and the second one is 3. Okay, find each cube root and justify your answer. So in my calculator, I would hit the number 3, second, housetop, 512, enter, and that equals the number 8, because 8 times 8 times 8 equals 512. B, the cube root of -729. So I know that my answer, my radicand is negative, so my answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to hit 3, second, housetop, negative, not your minus sign, 729, and I'm going to hit enter, and I get -9. For C, I will do my fractions just like I did on square roots with the 1, A, B, C, and then the number. So I'll hit 3, second, housetop, 1, A, B, C, 64, and then I'll hit enter, and that equals 1/4. We talked about why we can have a negative number inside the radical with a cube root and not a negative inside the radical with a square root. Because with a square root here, if I do, with the square root, the same number is being multiplied by itself. So if I do -3 times -3, that will give me a +9. But if I do -3 times 3 to get to that -9, they're not the same anymore. Okay, so that would not be possible. That would not be a perfect square root. Sorry, I went one slide too fast. Okay, inversing. Cubing a number and finding a cube root undo each other. Just like we were doing for squaring a number and finding the square root of a number undo each other, it's the same for the cube. So for my example here, if I cube 8 cube, right here would be 512. Just like right here. If I take the cube root of 512, I'm going to get 8. Here, on my parentheses, the cube root of 8 equals 2, and then I will cube it. I'm getting 8. Okay, practice. You can pause the video and try them on your own and then unpause it to find the answers, or you can work them along with me. Okay, so number 1, I'm going to write my answers down here at the bottom. The negative square root of 484, so I know my answer is going to have a negative. So remember, you do second, x squared, and then your number to find a square root. So I do negative square root 484, I get -22. Then I have number 2. It's positive negative square root 25/64. There's 2 ways that you can look at this. You can put it in your calculator, second, x squared, 25, ABC 64, enter. Or you can take each one and do it separately, like the square root of 25 and the square root of 64. Because these are easy that we can do in our head. So the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 64 is 8. Your plus and minus sign, negative sign here, is not on your calculator. You will have to just automatically bring it down to your answer. Number 3, the cube root of 343. Remember, you have to hit 3, second housetop, and then your number. So 3, the cube root of 343 is 7. If I look at number 4, the cube root of negative 1,331. Since my radicand is negative, I know my answer is going to be negative because I'm having a cube root. So if I do 3 second housetop negative 1,331, I'm going to get negative 11. Slide number 15, skill check. These problems are not written down, so you will have to write them down on your handout. Okay, I'm looking at the first one, 2 open parentheses, 3 minus 2, close parentheses, plus 6. Okay, we can think about PEMDAS. Remember PEMDAS from 7th grade? Parentheses, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction when we're working left to right. So I'm looking at the first one, I see I have a parentheses. Okay, so 3 minus 2 is 1. Then I have multiplication. I'm kind of bring it over here. 2 times 1 is 2. Then do my plus 6. 2 plus 6 equals 8. Okay, you could also type it straight into your calculator with your parentheses. Okay, the next one, x minus 3 equals 7. Okay, I'm solving for x and I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to do the inverse of negative 3, which would be add 3. Okay, because I want to make this a 0, so x is by itself. What I do to one side, I must do to the other side. Negative 3 plus 3 equals 0. 7 plus 3 equals 10, so I have x equals 10. On the last problem, we have 2y equals 12. I want to get y by itself. These are being multiplied right here. So I want to use the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I want to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, it's not 0. Make sure you put a 1 there. That means y is there. And then 12 divided by 2 equals 6.